Hey, it's your friend Choice CJ here, and I am bringing you guys a sort of marathon of games here. I'm going to be doing all of my Token Minorities March Madness battles from the preliminary round in this video. And I just didn't want to upload them one by one because the tournament starts this Saturday, and I didn't want to do all of that. So even though it's going to be a longer video, I hope you guys still enjoy it. There's a lot of fun teams in here, and a lot of the games are going to be really fun. So yeah, I've got it all sort of laid out right here. So here's your sneak preview, and we're going to hop right on into the first team builder. So thanks for watching, and hope you enjoy. Okay, so real quick, here's my team builder for the LHP 14 Florida, coached by Florida. Very interesting team name, I'll have to ask him about it. But his team should be popping up. He's got Tapu Bulu, Megalopony, Donphan, Silvally, Goodra, Salazzle, Heliolisk, and Jellicent. So right off the bat, his only ground resist is Tapu Bulu, which obviously doesn't want to take an Iron Head. So obviously we're going to be bringing Sandrush Drill with Swords Dance, EQ, Iron Head, Rapid Spin. This EV spread allows us to outspeed Jolly Bulu. Earthplate just to boost the Earthquake, which I'm going to be going for 90% of the time. And I didn't need any moves besides these, so I decided to put Swords Dance and Rapid Spin on. In case I feel like I can boost on something, and Rapid Spin in case I really need to get hazards away, because I do have 3 mons that are weak to it. Next up, we have an Assault Vest T-Tar. Obviously, we want this to summon the sand for the Excadrill, but AV T-Tar is also really nice for Heliolisk, Salazzle, and Goodra, getting off big damage on those things and not taking a lot in return, whittling them down with Sandstorm and stuff like that. Crunch, Pursuit, Stone Edge, Earthquake's the only coverage that we really need. Next, I have an Intimidate, Rocky Helmet Mence with Roost, HP Flying, Hydro Pump, and Dragon Claw. This is my Bulu check. It takes pretty much nothing from a Banded Woodhammer. Stone Edge can potentially to a KO. Like, it's really tempting to run either Shardy Berry or Yachi Berry on this thing. Like, I could run Yachi Berry for like an Ice Punch Lopunny, because Salamence is also a pretty decent switch into Lopunny. But I didn't, I liked the Rocky Helmet better just because it could combine with a recoil from Woodhammer and really whittle down that Bulu really fast. Next we have Rocky Helmet Celebi, another Rocky Helmet Mon. This Pokemon is more designed to take on Lopunny. Stealth Rock Recovery, U-turn, Zen Headbutt. He doesn't have a Psychic Resist. I was really tempted to bring some sort of setup on this, but I'm a little bit worried about him bringing something like Silvally Dark to try and take this on. And having this thing defensive is really nice for the Lopunny because he cannot do a KO me with return. And we can do some nice residual damage with the Rocky Helmet and also set up rocks with this thing. Next up, we have a mixed defensive Zapdos, Roost, Toxic, T-Bolt, Hidden Power, Ice. Volt Switch would have been really nice, but he just doesn't really have a great way to deal with this. Like, the combination of Toxic and Thunderbolt is just really good versus his team. Put enough speed on here for a Adamant Bulu, not a Jolly one. Put enough Spadef so that we're not too KO'd by Hyper Voice from Heliolisk if it's packing Life Orb. And then put the rest into defense to try and take on Bulu, Lopunny, and Donphan pretty well. Then last but not least, we do have a Double Dance Ninetales with Never Melt Ice. Freeze Dry, Hidden Power, Ground are the coverage moves. Freeze Dry hits everything on the team except for Salazzle, and that's what Hidden Power, Ground is meant to hit. We're missing a little bit of power with the Blizzard not being on the set, but if we can get to +2, it shouldn't matter that much. So yeah, that's the team, and we'll just go quick into the battle. Alright, so here's the battle versus Florida. He has brought Jellicent, Megalopony, Salazzle, Donphan, Heliolisk, and the Tapu Bulu. Looking at his team, he doesn't have a great way to deal with Zapdos, and my Excadrill is definitely going to do some work once I weaken the Jellicent and the Donphan. So I'm just going to go ahead and lead off with my Zapdos. And I'm going to go straight into my Celebi, because I figure he's probably going to go for Fake Out, and I can get off some nice Rocky Helmet damage. This next turn, I'm tempted to go for the Psychic, because he doesn't have a resist to it, but I think Rocks is also a fair play, and I'm pretty sure that is what I go for here. Yes. And so now he's got his Bulu in. I have an automatic switch into this thing being my Salamence, and I bring that in, get off the Intimidate as he goes for the Mega Horn. And it does 12%, which is pretty nice. Definitely suggests that he's not banded. So he could be Scarf, he could be something different. I don't really know yet. But I'm not quite really willing to risk anything at this point. I just go for the Air Slash, or not the Air Slash, the Hidden Power Flying. It does a ton of damage to this Dawn fan, and it means that my Hydro Pump is going to be able to kill it. So we take away his spinner. Rocks are here to stay, which is pretty nice for whittling down the Salazzle and whittling down this Heliolisk. I'm just going to go straight into my T-Tar here because it does really well versus this Heliolisk. And he is going to get the momentum with the Volt Switch, though, and he goes straight into his Tapu Bulu. And I obviously don't want to leave my Tyranitar in here to take a big Wood Hammer when this thing does so well versus Heliolisk and Salazzle. He just goes for another Wood Hammer, or another. He just goes for the Wood Hammer as I bring in my Ments, and so he's gonna switch out. Obviously, what he goes into, I'm not 100% sure, and I go for the HP flying on the Jellicent switch in. So this thing is kind of annoying for me to deal with. Like I could go into Zapdos and probably take it on, but I'm gonna choose to go into my Ninetales because it's I kind of don't need it. It can win me the game, but it can also just set up the drill if I need. So in case he wants to switch out into Lop, I'm go for the agility first, and now I'm going to go for a Nasty Plot because I can 2-hit KO with Freeze Dry with this damage. It goes for Shadow Ball. It does a pretty decent amount of damage, and obviously the Toxic's going to start racking up here. So I will go for the Freeze Dry. It does 76%, which is quite excellent. He just goes for the cover. That's probably his best play. I wonder what his item is. No, sorry, it is Leftovers. Sorry, I thought we hadn't seen it yet, but it's just because we hadn't really done much damage to it. Second Freeze Dry is going to knock it out, and we will go down. So yeah, trading a Ninetales for a Jellicent, but Jellicent, as I mentioned, is going to be able to sort of take on my drill, or at least take one hit if it's close to full. He goes into Salazzle as I go into Zapdos. I've got a very free switch into my Tyranitar here. And he's just going for the Sludge Wave. I take nothing because I'm Assault Vest, and this thing is a boss. I want to go for Stone Edge in case he decides to go Bulu. I don't want to go just for Earthquake. And I miss on the Lopunny, which kind of stinks, but he's already in range of an EQ from Excadrill, so I don't really mind that much. I go straight into Celebi as he goes for High Jump Kick. It does nothing. I do almost as much with Rocky Helmet, which is quite nice. I guess I could recover stall him here, but I'm just ready to go ahead and try and kill this thing. So I go for the Zen Headbutt, and I can take it out. So that's quite excellent. Celebi is pretty low, but it's done its job. I have other ways to deal with the Bulu. So he goes into Heliolisk. I want to not just sack this thing because I want to try and preserve as much differential as possible. And he goes for a nice Volt Switch play. He is taking some chip damage between the rocks and also the Life Orb, which is very nice for me. I'm going to make the same play that I've made 3 times now and go into my Ments. And he's going to go for the Rock Slide. Interesting that it's Rock Slide and not Stone Edge. But, I hate the chance to miss on Stone Edge just as much as the next guy, so I don't blame him. I'm kind of banking on him being Scarf here, and I go into my Excadrill. If he's not, then this was probably a risky play, because I think even a non-banded Wood Hammer is going to come close to killing. But I just go for the Iron Head. In case he's not Scarf, I don't want to click EQ and end up dying. But he goes into Salazzle. Now that his now that his Heliolisk is gone, T-Tar is only here to deal with the Salazzle. And I'm just going to go for Crunch because it'll get me some chip on the Bulu if he decides to bring it in. I could go for Stone Edge, but I already missed one of those. I'm going to try and make a safe play if I can help it. And he brings in the Bulu. I can bring in my Zapdos here, and because it's pretty much full health, and take whatever he wants to go for. Wood Hammer definitely does a lot. I get Static, which is nice, but I do outspeed this thing anyway if it's Adamant. I don't think I outspeed a Jolly. But go for Hidden Power, and that does not a lot, so I'm assuming that this whole time he must have been Assault Vest. That must have been his set. But he is at 1 HP, and we're going to be able to kill with the second Hidden Power. So we do finish up with a nice 5-0 victory, which is definitely going to help our differential. I mean, obviously, that's kind of a dumb thing for me to say. Clearly, it's going to do that. But just in case we get into some tiebreaker situations, which is not impossible given that we're only playing 4 games in this pool, having every little advantage is going to help. So yeah, that was that game, and let's hop into the next one. Okay, now I'm moving on to my battle with Jayhawk, coach of the Boston Weasels. I don't know how to pronounce that Pokemon's name, but I'll show you his roster. He has Mega Scizor, Pelipper, Latias, Dugtrio, Chandelure, Delmice, Crocodile, and Sylveon. So he's got like a little bit of rain. He doesn't have any Swift Swim users, but he can protect his Scizor and his Delmice with the rain a little bit, which is quite nice. You can go for Thunder on Latias and stuff like that. Bring in a D-Dance Mence because he doesn't have a great way to check it. Even to a max HP Scizor, we should be doing like 92% with Fire Fang at +1, which is quite nice. Steelium Z for the Sylveon to potentially take that thing out. And Dragon Claw just because it's my best dragon move that I want to use. He doesn't have Dragon Resist that can't be hit by these two coverage moves. And then we have enough speed on here for Crocodile. Next we have a kind of a funny set. We have Substitute Salicberry Salazzle with Nasty Plot Sludge Wave Flamethrower. I was kind of tempted to run Belch on this thing, but it's a little too gimmicky, I think. But yeah, basically I wanted this because it could just sort of be a nuisance to his team. But the sub plus Salicberry is kind of nice for dodging the trap from Dugtrio. Like if we can have a substitute up on that thing, and if, like say he's Focus Sash for example, or whatever set, he can break our sub, and then we'll get our Salicberry eventually, and we'll be able to outspeed him and revenge him, which is quite nice. Next we have a Static Zapdos, Roost, Heat Wave, Thunderbolt, U-Turn. U-Turn because he has two ground types that would otherwise be immune to the T-Bolt, so that's pretty nice. Heat Wave for Scizor, Thunderbolt for other Pokemon on his team. Rocky Helmet to chip down the Scizor eventually, which is pretty nice. Then we do have enough speed on here for a a Jolly Mega Scizor. Next we have a Shukaberry T-Tar, Crunch, Pursuit, Iron Head, Fire Blast. I originally had this Scarf to try and trap Latias, but we can still trap Latias with this set pretty well, and we don't automatically lose to Dugtrio with this. So if he is not Focus Sash, then we can, even if he's banded, we'll take like 60% from an EQ, and we can kill it with Crunch, no problem. Next we've got a Calm Mind Tapu Fini, Calm Mind Surf, Moonglass, Ice Beam. This set's kind of questionable, I would say. Like, if he's not sufficiently whittled on his team, he can revenge kill me with things like Delmice and stuff like that. I can't hit Scizor super duper hard. But if the circumstances are right, this can be pretty good. And nothing else, it'll apply a lot of pressure on his team, and it'll weaken Pokemon. You know, like Scizor and Delmice, which my other members of the team appreciate having weakened. And then last but not least, we have a Shed Shell, Mold Breaker Drill, Stealth Rock, Iron Head, Toxic, and Rock Slide. I'm kind of wishing I had EQ on here, but it's not super duper important. It's you know, mainly this is here to counter Sylveon. Iron Head can do a lot of damage to that thing. Rock Slide is a little preferable over EQ because I can do good damage to Chandelure and Pelipper with this thing. But yeah, like without EQ, I really can't do much to like Latias or even Dugtrio. I guess doesn't want to take an Iron Head. But yeah, this is mostly here to set up rocks, potentially get off a Toxic on something, and just make sure I don't get blown back by Choice Specs Sylveon. So yeah, that's the team. Let's go into the battle. Alright, here we are versus Jayhawk, and he has brought Mega Scizor, Latias, Pelipper, Delmice, Sylveon, and Crocodile. So I probably need to get a little bit of chip damage off on things like Crocodile, and just a little bit of chip on Scizor would be nice. Like if I just get up rocks, that'd probably be enough. Getting a little chip on the Delmice is also really important, because I don't think Fire Fang is going to be able to take that thing out, or even my Dragon Claw. They do about the same base power. But yeah, if I can just set up for Immense Sweep, I think I'll be pretty happy here. So let's go ahead and hop right on into the battle. I do lead with Zapdos, and he's going to lead with his Pelipper. I don't think there's any way he's going to stay in here, so I am just going to click U-turn expecting his Crocodile. And he does get off an Intimidate. I got a crit, which is unfortunate for him, and I do learn that he's Rocky Helmet, so that's good to know. I just go into my Fini, and I'm going to click Ice Beam because his most obvious switch is the Delmice, and Ice Beam still probably would have killed the Crook. So getting some chip damage on this again, quite excellent. I don't have an amazing switch into this thing. He does miss a power up, which is kind of unfortunate, but I do 4 times resist it, so it probably would have done, you know, like 20 or 30% or something. I just go for a sub, because I want to start just kind of messing around with him and seeing what he does. And he goes for Psychic and breaks my sub. Sludge Wave does 43%, which is not bad. But I don't have any reason to sack this thing, and I have a really nice switch in my T-Tar. But he makes a heads-up play, and he doubles on out into his Scizor. So Scizor is definitely a big threat for me. I'm going to go into my Zapdos, I'm pretty sure. No, I just stay in and Fire Blast. That's kind of a questionable play by me because I want to keep this healthy for the Lottie if I can. He just goes for the rocks now, and that definitely stinks for me. I go for the Roost, not expecting exactly what he wants to do. Like, I wanted to kind of see if he has Stone Edge or something like that. He knocks off my Rocky Helmet, and now he's in range of a Heat Wave, but I don't want to miss. And I go for U-turn, forgetting that he had a Rocky Helmet. So this is another sort of questionable play by me. The problem now is that my Zapdos is going to have a hard time roosting up versus members of his team. The only thing that I can really roost up on is Delmice. So we'll see how that goes. I go to my Salazzle as he brings in his Lottie. Not great for me, but I just want to get some chip off, which is what I do. It shows to be leftovers, and now I can bring in my T-Tar, and I can definitely take this thing out with Pursuit. So that's something that could prevent my, like if he's, and he wasn't Scarf obviously, but it could potentially try and take on my Mence. Who knows? He's going to go right into his Pelipper here, and I go into my Tapu Fini, and he shows to be Life Orb. So I'm thinking this is a speedy Pelipper. I do outspeed it with my own Tapu Fini. I don't really have much speed on this thing, so I'm a little surprised. But anyway, we get off that hit as he goes into Scizor. And this is actually, I want to talk about this for a second. So in my game, I was doing some calcs to like try and figure out if I wanted to just keep going for attacking moves or if I wanted to go for Calm Mind. And so I had it on my calc as Tapu Fini being +1, and he brings in his Scizor, and it does 15%. And I go, okay, if in order for this thing to do 15%, he has to be max Spadef. In reality, he doesn't have to be max Spadef for it to do that much. I just am not at +1, so I misidentify what this Scizor is. And I also don't have anything that can come in and take a BP. And Zapdos can't even come in and roost on a BP. Even if he's not attack invested, Zapdos is going to die. So that really sucks. So I basically just have to sack my Fini here. And going off of the fact that I believe that this is a Spadef Scizor, I'm thinking I can go into Mence, I can get off two D-Dances, get off a D-Dance and then go for a Fire Fang. Rain is going to expire on this turn, and I should do 92% min. We live on 4 HP. We go for the Fire Fang, but it does only 80%. So, yeah, that really screwed me over because now I've sacked my win con. If I had saved this, I could have brought it in versus the Delmice. I could have brought it in. Actually, that's really the only thing I can set up on at this point is the Delmice. So, yeah, he's going to be able to kill me with another BP, which really blows. And so, yeah, I'm going to have to let this thing go down. And now I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to win this game. So I go into T-Tar. I'm going to Pursuit. I am, again, wondering what sort of set he is. If he's defensive, then I do outspeed. So just Pursuit that thing. He brings this in, and I'm thinking, okay, this Pokemon definitely has to outspeed. Like, my Fini outsped, but there's no way that T-Tar outspeeds, and alas, it does. We get off a crunch, and we kill that thing, which is excellent. And then he goes into his Delmice, and I'm thinking, okay, maybe this is like Colbur Berry or something. Like, I don't really have another thing to switch in. And even if he does kill me, like, I'll just go into Zapdos, and I'll get off a Roost, and I'll start to look like I'm in pretty good position. And yeah, I kill that thing too. It doesn't even turn out to be Colbur Berry. So T-Tar putting the team on his back. The Sylveon goes for Hidden Power Fighting, I presume. And I get off an Iron Head, do 96%. And it's going to be able to kill my T-Tar. But I'm going to be able to outspeed a non-Scarf variant with my Excadrill and kill Iron Head. Turns out that he is actually Choice Scarf, so he can get off a Hidden Power Fighting on me. But I'm very Spadef, and we are going to be able to take out that Sylveon. So that's going to be a 2-0 victory. Excuse me. And I don't know. That was a really weird game. It wasn't my best. Only a 2-0, which was disappointing. But, like, you know, just if he had brought slightly different sets, I don't think I would have won just because I played my Zapdos so poorly. and my Ments so poorly. Like, Ments could have done so much work if I hadn't sacked it to Scizor. But I guess getting off that critical damage on Scizor was really important. It set up for my T-Tar to get 3 kills, which is quite nice. So T-Tar ended up with 4 kills in that game in total, which is excellent. So, yep, that's this game. Let's move right on to the next. Alright, so now we're 2-0, and pretty much we just need to win one more game in order to advance to the Open tournament out of these prelims. And so I've got 2 opponents left. I have Uzi Gunner, and then I also have VDZ. And first person I'm going to play is Uzi Gunner. If you don't know Uzi Gunner, he's a very talented battler. He's been a GBA analyst in previous seasons. I think he pretty much won the NPL Minors tournament. And he's definitely very talented. And my matchup versus him is horrible. He has Mega Scizor. Sorry, he does have Mega Scizor. He also has Mew, Infernape, Weavile, Nidoqueen, Salamence, Primarina, and Rotom Cut. So like a couple of like curious choices with the Primarina and the Rotom Cut, but of course, you know, those curious choices are going to do really well versus my team. So anyway, let's just quickly plow through this. Big shout out to Jar for helping me build this team, because I just have such a bad matchup. I really needed a lot of help, like trying to think about what to do. And he's also helped me with my a little bit of my other team building, which I really appreciate. But we have a Scarfini, Ice Beam, Surf, Moonblast, Hidden Power, Fire. We have Modest Nature, enough speed to outspeed Weavile with this. Defensive Finny is sort of like the obvious bring, but the problem is that like Infernape gets Gunk Shot, Weavile gets Poison Jab, Mew can get Gunk Shot, so even if I bring a Kebia, Berry, Tapu Fini, like I can maybe catch one of them, but I can't wall all of his Pokemon. It's just not gonna work. So rather than do that, Scarf seems like a pretty nice way to catch him off guard and do some good damage to his team. Next up, we have a Chople Berry T-Tar. This is kind of the same thing. Like, we want to catch him off guard. He can go with, you know, he can be packing Low Kick on Weavile, or we can actually live a close combat from this range with our Chople Berry from the Infernape. I would just put a little bit of speed in here because I like to not run 0 speed on my things if I can help it. Stealth Rock, Crunch, Stone Edge, Earthquake. The only thing that this doesn't really deal with is Scizor. I could have run Fire Blast over Earthquake, but I have other ways to deal with Scizor. One of which being this Salazzle, the Subtoxic Sludge Wave Flamethrower. Salazzle is not really the bulkiest. I don't think that's any secret. But its typing in this matchup allows it to resist the dual stabs of Weavile, Infernape, and Scizor, which is pretty nice. Plus, if he wants to like leave Scizor in on this, I can, you know, most likely I'm going to get off the big Flamethrower, but, you know, if I'm anticipating some switch or something, who knows, I can just go for Toxic and I can Toxic Scizor, or potentially the Nidoqueen, which is not bad. So that's the Salazzle set this week. You know, hopefully I can switch in on a resisted hit and dish some damage. Next we have a Yachibi Berry Immense with a Dragon Dance, Declaw, Fire Fang, Thunder Fang. We do live a Life Orb, Jolly, Ice Shard from Weavile, and he's pretty much forced to run Jolly this week because I have Salazzle, which is going to otherwise outspeed him if he runs Adamant. So that's nice. I just don't need any, like, I can't really take much prior damage. Like, I can come in on rocks, but I can't really live much more than that. But otherwise, yeah, like, once we get around the Weavile, assuming that he's not, like, a Scarf Infernape, we do pretty well versus his team. We do speed tie with his own Ments, so that's good. We have a defensive Zapdos, which is a good switch-in for the Scizor. It's the best switch-in that I have. It's one of the best switch-ins in the game, truthfully. Heat Wave to hit that thing. We also have Extra Sensory for the Infernape and the Nidoqueen, Thunderbolt for obvious Primarina, and Roost for longevity. Then finally, we kind of just threw this on. Choice Specs, Ninetales, Freeze Dry, Moonblast, HP Fire, and Aurora Veil. My other options were Excadrill or Celebi. Celebi's pretty awful in this matchup. And Excadrill, like, in theory, Sand is a good way to deal with things like Nape and Weavile and things like that. But he can just run Priority on Infernape. He can also run, like, Vacuum Wave on Mew. And Scizor just doesn't really care if it's defensive about anything that Excadrill can do. So, like, why not throw on Ninetales? We can hit relatively hard versus most of his team. We can set up an Aurora Veil if we really need, and we can bring in the Ments and sweep. So, Yeah, this is a really hard matchup. I'm not really looking forward to it. And I know the caliber of player that Uzi is, so we're going to see how this one goes. Okay, so here we are versus Uzi. He has brought Weavile, Nidoqueen, Infernape, Mega Scizor, Mew, and Rotom. Mew is definitely going to be a problem for my team just right off the bat, because I have only really T-Tar to deal with it. I do have Salazzle that can Toxic it, which is pretty nice if I can get that opportunity. Rotom's also kind of scary just because I don't have a Volt Switch switch in. So we'll do the best that we can. I'm going to lead off with my Scarfini and see if I can catch like the Infernape or something by surprise, maybe Nidoqueen. And he is going to lead off with his Rotom. Now, I obviously can't stay in here under this, just in case he's Scarf. So I'm going to go into my Ninetales, which can sort of take a Volt Switch and is really the most expendable member of my team. That damage does reveal that he is Scarf, or at least he's not Choice Specs. And he goes right into his Scizor, very easy switch for him. I'm going to go right into my Zapdos, but he's obviously going to U-turn here. On the bright side, I'm going to be able to get off the Rocky Helmet damage on him, and I'm also going to be able to chip him down with that one turn of Hail. So, every little bit of HP on that really helps. He's going to come in with his Nidoqueen here. Now, I am weary of the Ice Beam, but I don't have any other better way to hit this, so I go for the Extra Sensory as he gets up his rocks, which really stinks for me because I have 4 Mons on my team that are weak to it, and for some reason I didn't bring Hazard Removal. But I probably should have brought it on this Zapdos, but I really wanted all the other coverage that I had. I guess I could have dropped Extra Sensory. It was a little niche, a little niche for hitting Nidoqueen and Infernape, but I could get by with Zapdos using Thunderbolt versus Infernape and Heat Wave versus Nidoqueen potentially. So anyway, I go for the Extra Sensory again. I probably should have roosted on this turn because it also would have allowed me to scout for the Ice move without taking much damage. As he just goes into the Mew, definitely a good play on his part. I'm going to go to the T-Tar, trying to catch him in here and hit him with a powerful Dark-type move as he makes a nice double back into his Nidoqueen. And I don't really want to take an Earth Power on my Tyranitar because I still want to try and hit the Mew. So I just go to my Ninetales and pretty much sack it off as he goes for the EQ. So he has a physical set, which is good to know. I still don't know if he has an Ice move or not, so going into something like Mence is a big risk. We'll see how it goes. But I don't really have a better play than going into my Salazzle here. I think the minimum damage that Flamethrower can do is 30%, given my spread. Assuming that he's got some reasonable HP investment, like the standard Showdown investment. Plus, there's a chance that he switches out, so Substitute would be nice. Like, I don't really know why he'd save this thing, but he can use it to hit super effectively on T-Tar and some other stuff. So, on the off chance that he did something weird, I decided to sub, and also just getting that little bit of chip from the Hail is nice. So I can get a guaranteed, kill on this Nidoqueen. On this turn, he does decide to go into Mew, and I go for the Flamethrower. And I unfortunately get the burn. This is actually huge because I really don't have any other way to hit this Mew hard besides my T-Tar. And T-Tar could be easily dealt with by the other members of his team. And so if I had wanted to get a Toxic off on this thing, like assuming I didn't get the burn here, I 100% would have gone for the Toxic because it's definitely the best chance that I have to wear this thing down. As a side note, I'm kind of curious. I wonder if Salazzle can get poisoned by Synchronize if it goes for the Toxic. That's something that I'm really curious about, but I'll have to find that out another time. So anyway, yeah, like I'm just like, well, shit, what do I do here? I don't really have a way to deal with this Mew. It's obviously Spit F based on how little damage it took from the Flamethrower. So I do go for that. And he just roosts up. I probably should have gone into my T-Tar on that turn, expecting his roost. But I do go ahead and do that now as he goes for the roost. And my only play really here is to go for the Crunch and see how much we can do to the Mew. He goes for Will-O-Wisp. It misses, which really sucks for him, but I go for Rocks, just like maybe thinking he'll switch out. I didn't actually go for the move that turn. I wish I had. So now I go for the Crunch here as he eats the Colbur Berry. So, he built this thing to deal with the T-Tar really well. He knew that was the only thing that could potentially beat the Mew on my team. So now he can pretty much just stall me out. I do still do like 40% with Crunch, which is pretty decent. That with the burn and with a Sandstorm is doing some good damage to the Mew. But I am going to run out of sand on this next turn, as you can see. And I can't 1v1 this Mew at this point. There's nothing that I can do. This T-Tar is like completely useless, which really sucks. So I pretty much just like leave this thing in, and I hope that he eventually kills it. As he goes into his Scizor, which as you can see is not going to take a whole lot from this Crunch. It takes like 15%. And again, I'm tempted to go into Salazzle here because the Roost was a little obvious. But this T-Tar is just so like worthless. Just like, just stay in here and hope that he kills me. And he probably doesn't have SD because he has U-turn. So I don't have to feel too worried about that. I do go into my Zapdos here because unless he's Modest Scarf, which I don't think he would be, he would want to be Timid in order to guarantee to outspeed my Tapu Fini. Zapdos can live a Thunderbolt here, except for a max roll. I think an HP Ice might have been able to. No, an HP Ice does less than a Thunderbolt to Zapdos. So this is the best chance that I was going to have to Roost up. Zapdos can still be pretty good versus the majority of his team. So I want to get this thing healthy if I can. But he actually goes for Trick, which is a nice play because I'm going to be locked into the Roost here. I don't hate having Zapdos with a Scarf because if I can get rid of the Nidoqueen, then going for electric moves versus his team is going to be pretty decent. So we'll see about that. But he's going to Volt Switch. I sack my Salazzle, and he goes into Nidoqueen. My best play is to go into Mence and pretty much revenge this thing. So I just go straight for the D-Claw, take it out. Like, it stinks like if I have to potentially bring this Mence back in on rocks again, but kind of at this point, like, my mentality is let me just try not to get 6-0'd. So I do get a kill on the Nidoqueen, and I prevent that from happening at least. And I'm 100% expecting the Weavile to come in here, but he actually goes to Scizor. Now, Scizor can't do a whole lot to me with BP because it's not offensive. U-turn I resist. I could go for knockoff, I suppose, but like that's still not going to do a ton of damage to Salamence. So I'm thinking, okay, why not go for Dragon Dance? Like, what else am I going to do? And he brings in his Rotom. I have Fire Fang, and I am going to be able to take out this Rotom. It's not Scarfed anymore. I'm like, okay, so he's definitely going to go into Weavile now. And he goes back into Scizor. Like, wow, does this Weavile not have Ice Shard? I can't believe it. He goes for the BP just to get off some damage on me because that's his best play. I kill the Scizor. He goes into Infernape. Dragon Claw +1 kills this thing. He gets a crit Mach Punch to bring me low, but it still doesn't bring me low enough. The Dragon Claw crit didn't matter. I was +1 and was going to kill anyway. And now he brings in the Weavile. And I'm thinking, goodness, how did I just getting bodied like 5 turns ago? How did this happen? And now the Mew, which is Spadef, is going to come in. Dragon Claw is a guaranteed kill. And we are going to luck our way to a 3-0 victory versus Uzi. And I say lucked, like I didn't necessarily like hacks him, but I got lucky in that he immediately went into Scizor after his Nidoqueen died, and that allowed me to set up a DD, and then I was lucky in the fact that he didn't bring Ice Shard on the Weavile, because Ice Shard definitely, like after taking the Rocky Helmet damage, I'm pretty sure it would have killed my Salamence. It's like the Rocky Helmet damage from the Rotom Bow after it tricked my Zapdos. So I'm like in shock that this was able to happen. Really crazy. But yeah, we're going to move on to the next one. We are 3-0 at this point, and it's pretty much looking like we are guaranteed to make it to the big bracket. So that's nice for us to know. It takes a little pressure off, and yeah, let's go ahead and hop on to the next team. And finally, here is our team builder for the last match of this tournament. We are going up against VDZ, coach of the Atletico Salamence. And at this point, we are 3-0. We're guaranteed, I think, to advance no matter how this game goes. But, I feel like at least 2 of my wins I didn't really deserve, so it'd be nice to be able to play a game and play it and feel like I deserve it, that would be really great. But anyway, his team is Mega Lopunny, Zapdos, Necrozma, Sylveon, Donphan, Hydreigon, Empoleon, and Volcarona. Biggest thing that I'm afraid of is Volcarona, because it can set up and do tremendous damage to my team. But I'll show you guys sort of how we're trying to deal with that. We're going to start off with an Aurora Veil Ninetales, just because I really wanted to bring it, and I am bringing it to set up Salamence that we'll just look at the end. And having that's going to make it so it can set up on the majority of his team. Basically, the only thing it probably can't set up on is Sylveon and Hydreigon. Everything else it should be able to set up on. Even if Lopunny has Ice Punch, if Zapdos has HP Ice, if Donphan has Ice Shard. Well, probably can't set up on Donphan for that reason. But, you know, even if Empoleon has Ice Beam, I think we should be able to set up Blizzard and Moonblast, just because it's good coverage versus his team. It is sort of walled by Empoleon, but Empoleon's not really a threat, and I do have switch-ins for that. And Volcarona I don't set up on, but I do have Roar for that reason, just so it can't take advantage of Ninetales. Next we have Stealth Rock Excadrill with Specialty Defense Investment to take on Sylveon, and it could probably take one hit from Hydreigon if needed. Also switches him quite well to Zapdos. Toxic, Iron Hand, and Earthquake hits his whole team pretty well. And we are packing the Mold Breaker ability so we can hit the Levitating Hydreigon. Although, I'll have to think a little bit more on this. I could run Rock Slide here over Earthquake for the Volcarona. I might have to do that. But I do have Toxic if I'm really worried about that thing setting up on me. So that's nice. We put enough speed on here to outspeed Sylveon. So that's that set. And then we also have our Physically Defensive Celebi. It's a very similar set to what I brought against Florida. But we're going to be packing the Thunder Wave this time. Thunder Wave is going to be useful if he wants to leave in Lopunny versus the Celebi. And then also if he wants to try and switch in Volcarona, which is going to be a big threat to Celebi. I can hit that thing with the T-Wave on the switch in. And then I've got Psychic and Giga Drain because it's good coverage versus his team. Necrozma does take advantage of this, but we'll worry about that later. Excadrill can Toxic that thing, and that'd be really nice. We have T-Tar with Stone Edge, Rock Slide, Crunch, and Iron Head. Actually, maybe I'll run Power Up Punch. I'm gonna run Power Up Punch, which would be nice. The nice thing is that he can't really bring like a Iron Defense, Calm Mind, Necrozma because I have Tyranitar, so he has to bring probably like HP Fighting. But we do hit that thing pretty hard. This thing also takes a +1 modest Bug Buzz from a Life Orb Volcarona after Rock's damage, so that's quite nice. Rock Slide should be able to do great damage to that. This thing switches in nicely to Zapdos, to Hydreigon, and yeah, that's going to be the set this week. If we can get this up with an Aurora Veil, we can maybe get a few power-up punches going. Put enough speed on this to outspeed Necrozma. Next, we have a Choice Scarf Zapdos, U-Turn Thunderbolt, Ancient Power, Hidden Power, Ice. I want something to potentially revenge kill Volcarona because that thing is really scary. So if he's like a fully offensive Volcarona, I think Ancient Power has a good chance to kill even after, even after a +1 Spadef boost. But yeah, it's here to revenge kill that. It can revenge Hydreigon. It can revenge kill Lopunny depending upon what sort of HP that thing is at. And yeah, so that's going to be quite nice. And then last but not least, we do have our setup Mence, Dedrance, Dragon Claw, Fly, Earthquake. I was tempted to run the Stelium Z with Iron Tail for the Sylveon, but +1 Fly should do about as much damage. And it also gets around the potential Babiri Berry from the Sylveon, which is quite nice. And then I can also use it to smack Necrozma extremely hard. I can use it to smack Donphan, so on and so forth. Use it to smack Volcarona without having to risk Dragon Claw or Fly, both of which are contact moves and would potentially risk a burn. So yeah, we're going to be battling him in just a minute, and I'll come back with a replay. And here we are versus VDZ. He has brought Volcarona, Zapdos, Empoleon, Donphan, Sylveon, and Hydreigon. So it's funny, he's got Empoleon, Sylveon, and Hydreigon, all those Pokemons that end with on. But anyway, this is nice because he didn't bring the Mega Lopunny, which I admit didn't have a good matchup versus me, but it's still always nice when you don't have to worry about it. And then he also didn't bring the Necrozma. I think Necrozma could have done a lot more work than some of the other members of his team. Just because my only answer to it kind of was T-Tar, and maybe to Toxic it with this thing, the Excadrill. Sylveon, I guess, resists Psychic moves, but anyway. I want to get up Stealth Rock as soon as possible because that's really going to be the biggest way for me to counter his Volcarona. So I am going to lead with my Excadrill as he leads with Sylveon. So it's pretty much a dream scenario in terms of matchup here. I just go for my rocks. He is going to go hard into Donphan, which makes sense. And I'm expecting him to Rapid Spin, and I go into my Celebi. But he actually just goes right for the Stealth Rock of his own, which is a nuisance for my team. But the rocks are going to be just as bad, if not worse, for him. I probably should have clicked Psychic there to try and get more damage off of the Zapdos. But I do click it on the second turn as he goes for Volt Switch. I was a little surprised not to see like a Defog there, because if he wasn't Rapid Spin on the Donphan, then I think, okay, maybe he's Defog on the Zapdos. It is, of course, possible that he can be Defog on Empoleon. That's certainly a possibility. But anyway, I do get off some chip damage, and the nice thing is that if this thing comes back in and rocks are still up, it's going to be at 10%, and we're going to be able to take it on with pretty much any hit. And almost every Pokemon on my team outspeeds this. As you can see, we did outspeed this past turn, getting off that Psychic. So everything except T-Tar can pretty much revenge kill this thing. So the Zapdos is completely neutered, which is great. And he is going to Volt Switch in onto his Volcarona. And I don't want this thing setting up. I don't know what item it has, so I just click T-Wave as he goes for Fiery Dance and kills me. That actually suggests that he's modest. The 80.6 could not have been achieved if he had a Timid nature. I think the max it could do was like 79 something. So that's good for me to know. It means that my Mens can outspeed it, and my Zapdos can outspeed it at +1, and my Ninetales can outspeed it if it doesn't have any boosts. But I'm going to go straight into my T-Tar because I want to kill this thing. I wish I had Pursuit. That would have been a really nice bring on my part, but I did not have that. Instead, I had Power Up Punch. I go for Crunch here, anticipating that he might switch out, and Crunch was going to kill the Volcarona anyway. And I'm debating on whether I want to leave in my T-Tar here or not. The Volcarona, when it comes back in, assuming rocks are up, is going to come in at 1%, and then it'll die to any sort of residual hail or sandstorm damage. So I'm not as threatened by that, and I know that this T-Tar can do some good damage to a lot of the members on his team. It probably outspeeds Donphan. It might outspeed Sylveon. We'll have to see. He hasn't really used it yet. I go for the Power Up Punch just because I knew that Crunch wasn't going to kill. And I don't get burned here, which is very convenient. And he shows the Aqua Jet. I wasn't anticipating this when I made my Power Up Punch play because I knew I would probably end up taking one water move, but I didn't think I'd end up having to take two. And so Scald didn't do very much because I am Spadef Assault Vest in the sand. But the Aqua Jet hit me really hard because I don't have any HP or defense investment. So that, you know, is quite stinky. Like, he could have, if he wasn't a max speed Sylveon, like, he could have tried to go into Sylveon here, and we probably have enough health to, or we'll probably be able to kill it with the Iron Head now that we're at +2. Or there's a possibility that if he's not Choice Specs, we might have been able to take a +1 Hyper Voice from around 55 HP. Just because we have literally 612 Spadef right now. So, anyway, he's going to go into Hydreigon, and I don't know what kind of set this is. He goes for Flash Cannon, it takes me out, so clearly he's offensive. And then I bring in my Ninetales here, which in retrospect was probably a big misplay. Or it could have been a big misplay. If he was Scarf, I literally just sacked my Ninetales for no reason. If I thought he might be Scarf, I should have gone into Excadrill and just clicked Rock Slide or Iron Head. Probably Iron Head, because that kills the Zapdos, it kills the Volcarona. It does good damage to the Hydreigon in front of me. It kills Sylveon, and it does decent damage to the Donphan. But I didn't do that, so as soon as I sent it in, I realized that this could have been really bad. And my play is to click Aurora Veil, and that's what I do as he switches out. So he's most likely not Scarf, or potentially he feared me to be Scarf. You know, either is fine with me. But now he does die to the hail damage, which is great. The Volcarona is gone. He goes into Sylveon, and there's not a lot that I can do to this thing. But I'm going to switch hard into my Excadrill as he chooses to go for the Wish, which is a good play. He can pass into anything that he wants. I don't want him healing up his Zapdos, so I'm pretty sure I just click Iron Head here, because Iron Head would have killed the Zapdos. And indeed, he goes into Donphan instead. So he's able to get this thing up to full health, which is very good for him, of course. This thing is really annoying, so I do want to Toxic it. And it gets off a nice chunk of damage. It gets off 48% because it was a crit. I missed the fact that it was a crit in the battle, actually. But anyway, we can just go right on into our Zapdos here. I'm expecting him to go for EQ, which is why I brought this in. But he makes a smart play and goes for double knockoff. It's not going to do a lot of damage because the Aurora Veil is up and he did not get a crit that time. But at this position, if his Hydreigon is not Scarfed, it's actually better for me to not have my Choice Scarf, because now I can switch up moves and I already outspeed the entirety of his team. So I'm going to go ahead and click HP Ice on this Donphan as he brings in the Hydreigon. And we get a crit. I learned later that the Hydreigon was not Scarfed, so the only way that this really mattered was that I got an extra turn of Aurora Veil, because I would have been able to kill it with the next hidden power on the next turn. So that's less important. But he does bring in this Sylveon. This Sylveon's definitely an issue for me, because I can go into my drill and take that on, but he does have the Donphan that's still very healthy. So I am just gonna click U-turn because I know this thing is probably gonna wish if it doesn't protect. I need to go into my drill, and it does go for a wish. Now I'm expecting him to switch out into either Donphan or the Zapdos here, so I make a double into my Ninetales, because I know that I can Oko either of those things, or at least threaten the Aurora Veil, but he just chooses to protect. Makes sense, he would have gotten himself back to full HP, which he does here. I want to set up my own another Aurora Veil, and I finally get some damage calc from this Sylveon. I guess I got it from the Excadrill, but I didn't actually calc the damage when I took the... Or did I take a Hyper Voice with Excadrill? Maybe I didn't. I don't know what... No, I didn't take it with Excadrill. Yeah, so this is the first damage that I'm taking from this Sylveon, and this reveals that it is modest max special attack, but it's not Choice Specs obviously at this point, because we've seen it change its moves plenty. So that's definitely good for me to know, and that means that if I am able to get up with Mence actually doesn't die to a modest Hyper Voice behind Aurora Veil, which is good. And but I do know that in the back of my mind they probably has Ice Shard on that Donphan, so I don't want to get my Mence weakened if I can help it. But anyway, I am just now going to go for Blizzard as he goes for the Wish. And I do want to go for the Roar here because I can shuffle around whatever wants to come in. Like if he wants to try and heal up his Zapdos, for example, he's not going to be able to do that. I go for Protect, or he goes for Protect as I go for that Roar. And I roar into Donphan, which is not amazing, but Donphan didn't have that low of health anyway. Actually, here, let's watch this one more time, because I don't actually remember how much health it had. I don't need to watch this turn, but just bear with me. Donphan gets roared in, and it has, yeah, pretty much full HP. So yeah, I was pretty happy. Like this is a good outcome for me. So that he can't heal up his Zapdos, and the Wish is kind of wasted on the Donphan. But now he does sack his Zapdos to my Blizzard, which is pretty nice. So Ninetales getting a good kill there, and he's going to go back into the Sylveon. Now I kind of just want to get in with my Excadrill here, and I want to try and threaten this thing out. No, I want to go to Mence. Yeah, so. Forgive me for misspeaking, but Mence does kill with Supersonic Sky Strike, which is what I want to go for, because then that'll get me up to +2, or sorry, +1, and then the Donphan will come in. I can actually live 2 Ice Shards. I can live almost 3 Ice Shards behind the Aurora Veil, so I can easily take on the Donphan, especially because it is poisoned. But he preserves his Sylveon, goes out into the Donphan, and I'm going to be able to get off this Supersonic Sky Strike, which is great. He's not in range of dying to anything from me, like my Dragon Claw's not going to kill. But again, I know that the Ice Shard, based on the damage that I've seen from this Donphan, it does not attack invested. Ice Shard behind Aurora Veil is going to do like 25%. So I go for the Dragon Dance here as he goes into the Sylveon, and that's game, because he cannot survive this Earthquake. He is going to go for Protect on this play here in order to get himself up to as much HP as possible. But I already know that he is not bulk invested because my Ninetales did so much with its Blizzard. And I'm going to be able to kill that Sylveon. The Donphan is going to come in. I'm at +2. He's already whittled. There's no chance that he can win this game. He could potentially crit with the Ice Shard, but he does not. If he had done that, then I would have just gone into Zapdos and or Excadrill. Excadrill probably would have been better. And I go for an Iron Head And yeah, that is game. So we are going to finish this prelim stage with a 4-0 record with a plus 13 differential. I didn't play like the best game this game versus VDZ, but I felt like I played well enough to prove that I deserve my 4-0 record. And yeah, I don't know what my group is going to be for the tournament that takes place on the 25th, but we have indeed secured our spot. So I'm not sure how many people are in that bracket. I think it's 96 people that are going to be playing on the tournament on the 25th, but I'm very lucky that I'll be one of those people. And I know this has probably been a pretty long video, but I want to thank you guys all for watching. Hope you enjoyed. And make sure you come out to the stream on the 25th and support your Baltimore Oriolus. It's going to be on Crobat for the Win's channel on Twitch. And make sure you check out my YouTube channel for more gaming and Pokemon content. And until the next time, I'll see you all later.